Welcome to the NACEP Accreditation Application Review. This session will be recorded so we can provide access to the broadcast to you and those that are not able to attend today. It'll be posted under past webinars in our member resources section on the NACEP website. You can access that part of the site by clicking on membership, then entering your member username and password, and then clicking on past webinars. In addition to that, this webinar will be available on the peer reviewer training platform. Don't forget to join us for our next monthly Wednesday webinar on October the 6th. My name is Freda Richmond. I am the Director of Accreditation, and I am joined today by Lori Beth Wilson from West Kentucky Community and Technical College.
Hello, happy to be here.
The primary means in which colleges and universities and programs monitor quality in the U.S. is through a third-party peer review accreditation that's carried out by private nonprofit organizations. There's a couple of different types that do this kind of accreditation and are accreditors. There are regional accreditors that accredit public and private, mainly nonprofit and degree 2 and 4-year institutions. Then there's the national faith related accreditors. They accredit religiously affiliated and doctorally based institutions, mainly nonprofit and degree granting. There's the national career related accreditors. They accredit mainly for-profit and career-based single-purpose institutions, both degree and non-degree. And then there are programmatic accreditors. They accredit specific programs, professions, and freestanding schools such as law, medical, health profession, engineering, and etc. And this is a category in which NACEP falls. NACEP is the first and only organization supporting programs, practitioners, and policies to advance quality concurrent and dual enrollment programs. One of the ways in which we do this is through a peer review process. And I want us to go a little bit into depth about the peer review process. At the heart of NACEP accreditation is program improvement. Reviewers are encouraged to think of themselves as a critical friend, not as an inspector or an auditor, looking to catch any kind of violations. The reviewers assess whether a concurrent enrollment program has documented evidence that demonstrates concurrent enrollment program practices, policies, and procedures that meet or exceed NACEP standards. NACEP standards are operational, not aspirational. The burden of meeting the standard is on the applicants. Application shortcomings will be identified by the review team, and applicants will be given an opportunity to respond. However, all policies and practices must be in place at the time of the application submission. Because each concurrent enrollment program may be unique in its own language, policies, and procedures, we ask our peer reviewers to consider each application within the context of the institution state, their policy environment in which it may operate. By design, no peer reviewer from the same state will be assigned to an application so that they will, in most cases, peer reviewers may not understand the content of what's the landscape in which that's being offered. And so this is why we ask our applicants to make sure that they outline this during their application. So this will be available to you as a peer reviewer. Again, you're looking individually and holistically at this application itself. As a peer reviewer, when you're thinking about their expectations, we're looking for you to be objective and unbiased review. Above all, we ask that you treat this process with professionalism. Applicants have put countless hours and sometimes years into this application process. And we know that in some states, the stakes may be high and based on people's careers and their institutional reputation. So we ask for confidentiality regarding its contents of the application. We ask that you don't reveal the names of your team members or the applications that you may be discussing, keeping those communications confidential. You'll be assigned to a coordinating commissioner, and that coordinating commissioner and that NACEP staff person will be available to assist you with any questions, comments, and/or concerns you may have about the process. personal gains versus professional gains. We definitely ask that you can certainly mention on your resumes and in your professional life that you are a NACEP peer reviewer. We actually ask that you do that so that we can help spread the word about this great professional development opportunity. However, this should not be used to imply or endorse any other activities that you may be engaged in. Definitely not insinuating that you are being paid for this. All of our volunteers, all of our peer reviewers in this process are volunteers and not being paid for this process. So we ask that you just keep that in mind. And if you are in a process where you're providing a fee for service or consulting with any other professional services that may be engaged our applicants, that you are not able to serve as a peer reviewer for NACEP.
And Freda, one of the best reasons I found as a peer reviewer myself a few years back was I really truly learned more about the standards and the expectations of what an applicant is putting out there and what is expected to have a really good application. So it not only helped us as a college with a concurrent enrollment program, it had helped me to kind of realize there are different ways to do things too.
Absolutely. And we do encourage if you are going through the accreditation application process, if you're thinking about it as a program, this will be a great way for you to get that experience to serve as a peer reviewer, especially if you're going through the reaccreditation process in the upcoming years. So I want to give you a little bit about the structure. So the NACEP Accreditation Commission handles the reviews of the accreditation application. They also develop the policies and procedures for NACEP. The commission has 11 representatives from NACEP accredited programs, plus one appointed external member. Each commissioner is responsible for about 2 to 3 applications per cycle. They will participate in team calls, provide feedback, attend the site visit, answer any questions that the team may have to ensure that the process is moving along in accordance to the timeline. So the commissioner will be assigned to each peer review team. In addition to that, each peer review team may have a review facilitator. So for this cycle, we have assigned review facilitators to what we have identified as large programs. In addition to that, your the review facilitator is not a member of the team. They will be there to help coordinate your team meetings, take notes, compile all that information. They'll be your liaison to your coordinating commissioner and also to the applicant. In addition to the 3 members of the peer review team, one person will be serving as a peer review team lead. We have assigned leads right now to all of what we've identified as our medium-sized programs. All medium-sized programs will have a team lead. Again, that person will be an active member of the team. Unlike that review facilitator, the team lead would actually be participating in conversations. They will be an active member of that 3-person team that would be assigned to work through the application, reviewing all of the evidence that would be assigned there. Wanted to go over the peer reviewer role and responsibilities. Again, we are asking our peer reviewers to that you will be assigned to 1 or 2 applications. So anyone that is assigned to what we have identified as a smaller program, you'll be assigned to 2 small program applications, and so it will be a consistent team. So the same 3-member team will be assigned. You'll have the same commissioner, and you will be assigned to 2 separate applications. We ask that you participate in email exchanges and conference calls, webinars, face-to-face meetings, however your peer review team will be participating. Consult with your coordinating commissioner and for guidance and any interpretation that you may need as far as the standards are concerned. Provide your feedback for things that you've identified, as Lori Beth kind of alluded to, different practices that may be meeting or exceeding the NACEP standard. We definitely love to get a catalog of all of those best practices so that we are able to share those with our other programs. You will be documenting your feedback initially as a peer reviewer during your screening process, sharing that information with your team during your team meetings, compiling that information that would then be served as a guide for the commissioner to help the commissioner ultimately make the decision about the accreditation recommendation. Please keep in mind that the coordinating commissioner makes that recommendation decision. The review team is definitely responsible for just overlooking and taking a look at that information. So I'm going to turn it over to Lori Beth to give you some additional information on how you can think like a commissioner while you're participating in this peer review process.
Thanks, Bretta. So one of the first things that come to mind when I, go to the peer review team and we talk about, that application is standards. Take your book or online file. I'm always, the one who wants the paper in front of me because I even printed off the PowerPoint today going through it. But make sure that every decision or question or thought process that you have, you want to make sure that it falls back on that standard. And one of the things that I think comes up more than anything, F2 and F3, those two standards, you really want to know, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? And could we make it, and I'm not even saying just F2 and F3, but could we make what they're telling us actually appear to be the standard? That's not what we are supposed to be doing. An organization and a program has decided to put forth their best bet in that application process, and they are showing you as a team what they have. Don't try and make anything up. Don't try and make things work. Look at the standard and just yes or no, does it fit? Does it fit with that standard? Is the required evidence there? Do they have all of the things in place? And as a commissioner, and this is, I guess, my fourth year now, we look at these things and we all want the best for our programs, but we have to go back specifically to the standards. Is it there? Is the required evidence there? Are they following the standard? Now, it doesn't have to be your way or my way. Is the standard being followed? So I think that's the most important thing that you can think of. Also, as the peer review team, the commissioner is there to guide you back to the standards. So when you are in that process talking and discussing the application, don't expect the commissioner to lead that conversation. Do not expect the commissioner to change your mind. They're really there as someone who has read the application and reviewed the application themselves, and they want to help lead you back to the standards. So if we kind of start going astray in that conversation, like maybe it's there, maybe it's not, come back, come back, come back. And that's what the commissioner is there for. They can give you recommendations, but most of us as commissioners want to wait until you ask for our help to recommend things, because ultimately we look at what you say, what we've seen, and then come together for that final conversation holistically to make sure that standards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 have been met. But don't ever hesitate to ask your commissioner questions. Don't ever hesitate to send questions in to NACEP or accreditation@nacep.org, because we all are human and we all perceive the text in the accreditation guides, maybe a little bit differently. So we do want to have more than one opinion on those. And that's why we have a really great team, the peer review team, along with a commissioner there to help guide the process as smoothly as possible.
Thank you, Laura Beth. Those are great recommendations as you're thinking about thinking like a commissioner. So NACEP has 2 accreditation guides that go along with the 2 endorsements that NACEP currently offers. Our traditional endorsement is the CEP endorsement, which is Concurrent Enrollment Program. NACEP defines Concurrent Enrollment Program as college credit-bearing courses taught to high school students by college-approved high school teachers. Our newest endorsement is the College Provided Faculty Model, CPF, and that is actually launching or piloting during the 21-22 accreditation cycle. And the college provided faculty model is defined as college bearing courses taught to high school students by college provided faculty, regardless of the location or delivery method. The standards articulate best practices that colleges can follow to ensure that the academic integrity of its courses, regardless of where they are taught and by whom. These accreditation guides are used by the applicants, by our peer reviewers, by our commissioners, in helping to understand what is required and the suggested evidence within each standard, as well as the acceptable range of variation in meeting the standard. The guides are an invaluable tools that are there to prepare applicants and even more valuable for accredited programs. The these guides are available for you on the NACEP website as a downloadable PDF version for you. So if you'd like to download those, please go to www.nacep.org. Wanted to go a little bit into the NACEP standards. There are 16 standards in 6 categories to ensure that these post-secondary institutions offer the same college courses in the high school as offered on campus and provide sufficient academic and program oversight to ensure this course integrity. So, in both of the endorsements, there's a partnership, curriculum, faculty, students, assessment, and program evaluation. There are 16 standards in the CEP endorsement, but only 13 standards in our college provided faculty endorsement. When looking at the model for both of these, and this diagram is also available on the NACEP website, if an institution is applying for both the CEP and the CPF endorsement, P1, P2, S1, S2, S4, E1, and E2 documentation can be used for both endorsements if a single process, procedure, or policy is followed. S3 and S4 describe the differences between the two endorsement models, the CEP and the CPF, and the reasons for those for those differences. And F3, a single annual professional development events can be included if instructors in concurrent enrollment programs and colleges provided faculty model. So note that there are many different models and programs that high schools offer that fall under concurrent enrollment that don't meet NACEP standards. And so we definitely want to make sure when you're looking through the application and when the applicant applies that they are following and providing evidence for both of these models. I want to give you a little bit of an overview of what the 21-22 cycle looks like. We have 28 um, applicants in this cycle. 19 of them are initial programs. 9 of them are reaccreditation, going through the reaccreditation process. 21 of these applicants are from the pause cycle, so keep that in mind as peer reviewers that they were allowed to upload evidence from the 1920 and the 2021 evidence academic year. So they will be providing evidence from both of those years, and they should be identifying for you what academic year this piece of evidence is coming from, and of course across the disciplines where there needs to be consistency with evidence that should be consistent within those years. And then we have 7 applicants that came through the 21 cycle, and so those will be uploading evidence only from the 2021 academic years where their evidence will be coming from. For NACEP endorsements, 24 programs are going for our traditional CEP endorsements. 2 programs are going specifically just for our college provided faculty endorsement. And then we have 2 programs that are going for both the CEP and CPF endorsement. This is really great because within those 2 programs, one is an initial program and the other one is a reaccreditation. So a program can be granted both endorsements by the commission, and or they can be granted one of the two, or there's a possibility that they may not be granted either, depending on the evidence that they upload and what you observe as a peer reviewer. For logistics, want to give you an overview of Box. You will be receiving an invitation to access the Box folder. Within the Box folder, within Box, you'll see the accreditation application for the 21-22 cycle. You'll see the name of the program of the applicant that you'll be working with. Within there, you'll see two folders. One is for the actual application. And once you go into that application, you'll see supplemental folders for each one of the standards. And then there also is a peer reviewer team folder. So we're asking that you use this folder as your team. In this folder, you will find the screening form that you will be using to screen your application, along with a timeline so that you will be abreast of the timeline. And if your team lead and your review facilitator will also be using this box to upload all drafts of documents that will be sent to the applicants, all of your meeting documents and meeting notes. So we'll have one compiled space that we can go to see this information. Again, the applicant will not have access to this box. They will not be able to see the information that you're uploading there. At this point, applicants will only have an opportunity to review their own information. They are not able to edit until at such time as you've asked them for additional information that's coming out of Box. If for some reason we know that with the pandemic, firewalls have been improved, for the lack of a better term, and they have been enhanced. That's a better word. So if your firewall through your institution would not allow you to access Box, please send us an alternative email address, either a Gmail address or your personal email address, and we'll be more than happy to send you a link to Box via that email address. Wanted to provide you a little bit about the program description. This is going to be within your application, I would say, where you would find most of all of the information that you would need, especially about the landscape and understanding how the programs that you are reviewing, the information that they are providing. Even though this program description is not a standard, it is very important. It provides the context and understanding the application, the history of the program, their size, their institution, their state, legislation, policy, environment, any factors that's affecting this applicant's work in the program, you'll find this in the program description. The evidence submitted by the program must match the NACEP definition of each endorsement. All concurrent enrollment courses must be identified, and programs cannot apply for a subset of their program offerings, like one particular department. They have to apply for everything that falls within the context of the endorsements themselves. So you will find that in your program description.
So I want to speak to the program description. Freda, if you don't mind, go back, please.
Yep,
I'm sorry, I wasn't quite fast
absolutely.
enough. And one of the things, as Freda said, this is not a standard, but this particular guide will help you throughout the entire application, because this gives you an overview, and then you need to be sure that everything listed here is reflected again in each standard. So the number of disciplines, the number of instructors, the number of courses, number of sections, those things that are listed in this program description, you should be able to find those exact numbers when you go down and look at the standards that are related to it. Like curriculum, you want to make sure that the disciplines are matching. You want to make sure that the courses are the same courses that they're listing here whenever you look at the discipline list and the course guide. This builds your application holistically and then reaches into each one of those standards. So again, as Freda said, this is one of the most important pieces to give you that overview, and then make sure that it connects back to the program description for each one of the standards.
Thank you for that, Lori Beth. And also want to talk about your review form. So for the screening review form, again, you will receive this, and it'll be a copy of this will be available for you on Box. We are asking that each peer reviewer completes a review of the application prior to meeting with your team. This will give you an opportunity to go through each piece of it, take a look on how it is aligned and how it meets the standards. Any questions that you may have before you meet with your peer review team, this will ensure that you have very robust conversations with your team as you move forward. Within each part of it, you will see the actual standard. So depending if your program is applying for which endorsement, you'll have the standard will be outlined for you. The required evidence will be there for you. And then you'll also have a space where you can put any notes that you may have about those standards. You can check off if the standard required evidence is there, if anything is missing, any questions that you may have, you're able to log it in this document. And then you'll also have access to all of the rubrics. So for a number of the standards, there is a rubric attached to it. So especially when it comes to looking at your curriculum and syllabi, seeing if those are aligned. So you can outline the discipline. You can say, does it meet the standard? Does it not meet the standard? Any comments that you may have about that, you can log it there for again prior to you having a meeting with your team. And again, within Box, you're able to upload any versions of that you like to upload and keep. Of course, either your team lead or your review facilitator will be compiling that information for your teams to make sure that that's also uploaded in Box so that we'll have a copy of those notes from your team meetings. In addition to that, you'll be completing a final report. The final report is specifically very important for the commissioner, the coordinating commissioner, to help the commissioner advocate for the program at the time of the commission vote, which will happen in spring of 2022. Within this document, you will definitely be outlining for each one of the standards. Does the application meet the standard? Yes or no? Any strengths or weaknesses that you have identified as your review team? The commentary is very important. We provide that information back to the applicant so that they will know where they are excelling in some areas of growth. And then the commissioner also does the same thing. So the commissioner, prior to releasing these applications to the review team, the commissioner has also done their own internal deep dive into this application, making sure prior to being coming to the review team that it has been reviewed and it's ready for the review process. Lori Beth, do you want to speak a little bit about that before we go into the peer review process?
I do. When you talked about being an advocate for that application, I think that's so important that the peer team knows when you guys make a decision, that commissioner goes back to the full commission and truly does become a cheerleader, become an advocate of everything that you say, everything that they have witnessed in the peer review of that whole application. So if you think it, say it. If it's something that needs to be shared out to the full commission to make sure that everyone hears exactly what you're trying to express from your, and I don't want to say decision, your recommendations, so that that application or that applicant can really have a true presence at the table.
Thank you for that. So there are 12 steps that I want to quickly go over. These 12 steps are available to you as some guides for you. So you may have seen these before, but I think it's important to really think about as you're looking at what is going to be involved in this peer review process. So again, a lot of this I'm going to echo from conversations that we've already had throughout this webinar. So we are asking that first thing that you do is you do your own individual review of the application as a peer reviewer. Your team lead or your review facilitator will schedule a meeting for you to meet, to have your first meeting. At that time, the review facilitator or the team lead will collect notes and recommendations. This will help in drafting that response to the applicant to help them understand if there are things that are missing in their application that the peer review team would like some clarity on or more information about. Once those areas have been discussed in the that submission has been done, the applicants will receive the letter from the peer review team that's actually approved by the commissioner, and it is sent out by the commissioner. The applicant will then have an opportunity to respond to the commissioner's letter and the peer review team request for additional evidence. And then you will go through and do another review individually to take a look at those standards where the applicant has provided more information, so that you can then go back and look to see if that information that has been submitted now meets your expectation of what you're looking for. After that, you will be going through and scoring the sheets, identifying if the evidence is there or not there. The Once that is done, the review facilitator and the team lead will start to work with you to help prepare the team for the site visits. Site visits this year will all be virtual, so you'll have an opportunity to participate in that site visit. Every member of the team will be there, including the commissioner. And if there's no additional questions that come out of the site visit and from the commission, at that point, you will do the final report and submit that final report to the commissioner that has been assigned to that application. Again, as Lori Beth alluded to and discussed, the commissioner will then, who's advocating for that applicant, will do that on behalf of the applicant with the commission, and then the commission will vote. So what does that look like as far as timeline? So we're excited to announce that today you'll be receiving your assignment. So you'll know what peer review teams you've been assigned to, and also your invitation to box. We're asking that all team leads and review facilitators send out a request for a team meeting prior to September the 15th. So between now and the 15th of September, you'll have an opportunity to do your individual deep dive. By the 20th of September, we're asking for you to have that first team meeting to actually be done. By October 31st, that would be the request for additional evidence and information to the applicant. And that's also the time that you will be starting to prepare for your site visit. Site visits will begin in November, and they will go all the way through March of 2022. And March 15th is going to be the deadline for the site visits. The accreditation team is going to be working with the applicants behind the scenes to prepare for that site visit, and to let the team know when that site visit is going to be scheduled. And then the final report is going to be submitted by the 30th of March. Again, giving the commissioner enough time to look over all their information and make sure that they're prepared for the commission vote.
And Fred, I
So I'll
know
turn it
you've
back.
said this
Yeah.
before, and just I think it's worth saying again. If you've been a commissioner, I'm sorry, if you've been a peer team review or on a review team prior to this year, we've had two options or opportunities for applicants to submit information back to the team. But this will be the first year that they will only have one shot to do it. So we feel like as the commission got together, we felt like it was important that they put the best foot forward for the application. And if we needed to ask for clarification, we only ask one time. So that's just a reminder that it's different if you've done this in the past. It's one shot, or not one chance to get clarification.
Thank you so much, Lori Beth. I did forget to say that. And also the face-to-face interview that has happened in the past, that typically happens at the national conference, has now turned into the virtual site visit. So there will be no opportunity for the applicant, the commissioner, and the review team to meet face-to-face. That has now transitioned to a virtual site visit.
All right, my
Any,
pearls of wisdom. Let me just add a
yeah,
couple more things. I'm so
please.
sorry. I know you've got some certain things too. One, I would tell everyone, take notes. As Freda said, go through it yourself. Take notes for yourself so that you remember what you were thinking when you were reading it through the first time. And remember, these notes are just for you. And then take notes once your team gets together. That way you can compare and contrast what you were thinking as compared to what other people are thinking. And do not hesitate to ask your team, I can't find this. Did you find it? Or do you think this file is what they're referring to in the standard? Don't hesitate to ask those questions, because if you're thinking it, other people are probably thinking it as well. Consistency throughout the application is going to be important to give that holistic best practice of the application. And as a reminder, not every applicant will receive accreditation. Don't feel bad for that. You do your best to make sure that you are trying to make NACEP a strong, competitive organization that says, hey, this is important. These standards that have been set in place are important, and we want to make sure that everyone who earns accreditation has met each one of these standards. And as an applicant who has met all of those standards through their application, remember that really key factor that we're not trying to hurt anyone, and we're not trying to say that their program is good or bad. What we are doing is stating your program meets each one of these standards that NACEP find important, and share that they are peer reviewed throughout. So I think that is hands down the most important thing to remember, and enjoy the process, because once you get finished with it, you take a deep breath and like blow it out. It's like, ah, this was good.
Absolutely. So we wanted to thank all of our peer reviewers for completing your training through the training platform. This is the first year that we have had this opportunity to provide you with a self-paced course. You will have access to this platform until the end of March. Of 2022. So keep that in mind. So you'll be able to go back and take a look at all the standards and evidence, any videos that you weren't able to review, they'll be available for you. All the gamification, the knowledge checks. Again, we will be holding a monthly webinar series. Commissioners will have office hours there, and we also will have a discussion board. If you haven't done so already, please print out your certificate, post that in your cubicles and on your walls to show that you have been trained throughout this process and that you are ready for this. Um, and you're ready to be a peer reviewer. So we're really excited that you were able to participate in that. And if you have any questions, please put your questions in the questions box. Lori Beth and I will be able to address those now. So I do see a question that came through just about who is participating in the site visits. So again, the virtual site visits will happen beginning in November. Programs will have an opportunity to schedule those beginning in November and making sure that they conclude by November the 15th. It will only be a one day site visit that will be set up. And we are looking forward to the commissioner and the review team members attending that one-day site visit. So as soon as the accreditation team secures that date with the applicant, we'll be providing that information to the review team so that you'll be able to hold that date on your calendar, that you'll be able to attend the site visits. What other questions, comments, and/or concerns did you have? Please put those in the questions box now, and we'll be able to address those. Lori Beth, any other last minute pearls of wisdom while we're waiting for questions to come through?
No, not really. I feel like you gave me ample time, but I do appreciate you guys letting me talk and share just ideas and thoughts from the commission team. I've enjoyed it so much and learned a lot by reviewing and looking at the standards, and then seeing other people and how they meet the standards. So I hope you guys enjoy this process. It's incredible. And if you're coming back, I'm glad you come back to us.
Absolutely. So we did get a question. If we do have questions after the college has responded to the first round, how will that be handled? That's a great question. So again, there will not be a second response for evidence. So we're hoping that once you send out your first response letter and the applicant, we're going to make sure that letter is concise and that letter asks for all the missing information. So that's why the commissioner did their deep dive review first. The commissioner also will have to approve this letter before it goes out. And hopefully, if there's anything that has not been addressed, maybe perhaps the applicant will have an opportunity to do that at the site visit during the site visit time. But we do not foresee that there will be another opportunity for applicants to ask questions. So if there is something that is missing, then that would be a missing element that will have to go into I guess the commissioner will have to figure out how they explain that to the full commission when it's time for the vote.
So that would go into the recommendation that the team makes after submitting the application and a second request or the request. This is what we found.
Great. And then we had someone that asked about the invitation for peer reviewers. So we've been recruiting peer reviewers since the latter part of May. Peer reviewers had an opportunity to participate in a training. The training was supposed to be completed. The last day to do that was the 31st of August, and peer review teams will be assigned on today. So we are no longer accepting peer reviewers. The next time we'll be looking for peer reviewers will be for the 22-23 cycle. So there's questions about the national pre-conference for accreditation. Yes, there's still space available for the Accreditation Institute. That's going to be offered as a one-day event as a pre-conference for the national conference. We're also hosting a 3-day Accreditation Institute that's going to be virtual, starts on the 29th of September and goes through October 1st. And this is also going to be available on demand. So if anyone participates, you'll have access to all of the resources and all of the workshops and all of the recordings until the pre-application submission, which is January 2022. Great questions. Any other questions that you may have that we haven't addressed? Yeah, so we are asking for the question of for the review team, we are asking for your first review to be done. I'll go back to the timeline there. We are asking that you complete your first review and prep for your team by the 15th, and that you have your first meeting by the 20th, because remember that request for additional evidence that letter needs to go out by the 31st of October. Again, once you get access and you'll know what peer review team you're assigned to, you'll also get access to Box. Within Box, you'll see the screening form, and so you'll be able to do that on your own. And I'm sure Lori Beth can speak to, in order to make sure you are maximizing and having very robust conversations as peer reviewers, you want to make sure you're coming to the meeting prepared to talk about the application. That'll make, your first meeting really, really productive.
And I think taking notes while you're reviewing the application, even 1 or 2 times before you guys have your team meeting will be most helpful so that you can share the information with each other. And again, see if everybody else is on the same page, or if you just missed a file, I think that's going to be helpful as you go through the process.
Great, thank you. So it looks like we are all out of questions, which means we must have done a really great job. So we'll thank you for that. Again, this webinar will be posted and available for you with the Q&A as well. Will be available for you on the peer reviewer training platform, as well as under your member resources under past webinars. So we asked, if you didn't have an opportunity to participate in that, please take some time and listen to this presentation. You'll also have access to the PowerPoint presentation on the peer reviewer training platform, so that will be available to you as well. Thank you so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you on our next Wednesday webinar, which will be October the 6th. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you, Lori Beth.
Thank you, Freda. Bye.
My pleasure.